Hello everyone, this is Tom from Dirk Witte Music Store in Utrecht, the Netherlands. Today we are taking a look at a really cool vintage Fender electric guitar. Kind of like a student level electric guitar from those days, from 1966, a Fender Mustang in its original Dakota red finish. Really cool guitar, and check out the flame on this neck. That is just absolutely stunning. Really cool guitar. Believe it or not, this guitar actually only has known one owner in his lifetime, and this one owner actually got this guitar when he was 14 years old, way back in 1966 or maybe 1967. We actually also have a Fender Jaguar from 1964 that he also got from his parents, but when he was 12. So it kind of like checks out chronically. But what I have to say about that is cool parents. I would have also loved to get some really cool Fender solid body electric guitars when I was 12 or 15 or 14 years old. But I digress. We are really thrilled to then have this guitar now in our shop, so that we can hopefully pass it on to its next very proud owner. This really cool original, 100% original Fender Mustang. So the Fender Mustang was first introduced in 1964 as a student level electric guitar. You actually have like multiple models from those years. In the early 1960s, you also had like the Music Master, you had the Duo Sonic. And what then makes this kind of like a student level electric guitar is that it's also kind of like a short scale. So this is 30, oh wait, that is totally incorrect. This is 24 inches long. So the scale length, meaning from the bridge to the nut, that is 24 inches. So if I then also hold it a little bit closer to my body, you can probably tell that it is not that long of a guitar, because it is a short scale. So it is all just a little bit closer together, especially the frets. It feels a little bit more slinky. Bends are just a little bit more forgiving, but it just plays really nice. So yeah. And then over the years, it kind of like went through its changes. We actually also have a Competition Blue from 1968, also currently in the shop from that same owner. He was not the first owner though, but he also took really great care of that fantastic rare vintage Fender electric guitar. But this one is probably equally as cool if you ask me. Probably not as rare, because that Competition Blue was also like a the competition series was like introduced in 1969 officially, but that one was 1968, so making that one definitely a little bit more rare. But this one is, again, like I said, probably equally as cool. And it is red instead of blue. So if you like red a little bit more, probably should check this one out. So really cool guitar. Let's dive into the specs. So we've gotten all the body underneath this original Dakota red finish. And Dakota red is, you don't see the color all that often nowadays, but back in the mid-1960s, I would say, you'd actually see that color a little bit more often. Kind of like also on the student level of guitars. We actually also had a Music Master not too long ago, also in that same color. And it's kind of like a little bit more of a deep red color. So it is definitely not Fiesta red, also definitely not Candy Apple red, because that is metallic. But this one is this opaque, yeah, kind of like a deep red, and I think that it looks really cool. Definitely has some mojo going on, so some honest player wear, some very cool finish checking, and yeah, looks really nice. What you also see here is a little bit of a pattern going on, like this, going like in this round pattern also here on the sides. And what that actually is, that's actually quite cool. A lot of Fender guitars also came with cables back in the day, and those cables often were like the coiled cables, so they kind of like went into this, yeah, kind of like this, yeah, coil pattern. And a lot of people then would just put the cable underneath their guitars when being stored in the case. But what was not known at that time is that the material that those cables were made out of, that would react with the nitrocellulose finish, resulting in this that you actually see on Yeah, it is really not that uncommon to see for Fender electric guitars from the 1960s. And here we see it in the flesh. Kind of cool history behind that, in case you also see that on other old vintage Fender guitars. Purely cosmetic. You do feel it also a little bit, but yeah, only adds to the mojo if you ask me. And it's also just kind of like just a part of the history from like mid 1960s for like mid 1960s Fender. Moving on to the controls. First off, moving on to the electronics. The pickups, original Fender Mustang pickups, 2 single coil pickups, kind of similar to Stratocaster pickups, but at the same time also got their own thing going on. They sound really great, plenty of twang in the bridge. Neck pickup also plenty of warmth, and again with also then a little bit of their own thing going on. These switches right here are actually on-off switches for each of the pickups, so that you can then turn only one pickup on, or both on at the same time, or just have them both off. What was also cool is because these switches are 3-way, so in the middle position they are off, so now there won't be any sound coming out of the guitar. Now you just have your neck pickup on, now you'd have both on, and obviously now you just have your bridge pickup on. But if you then have these opposed of one another, so kind of like counter on, if you will, so this one is facing that way, this one is facing that way, they go out of phase. So you really get kind of like 4 individual tones, so the pickups by themselves on at the same time in just regular mode, just like you find on a Fender Telecaster, for example, in the middle position, or out of phase. So that is really cool. I actually really dig the out of phase tone, and I hope that you do too. Moving on to the bridge, the tremolo system. Even got the original bridge cover, which is really cool to see. And underneath, obviously, you've got your Mustang bridge with kind of like these roller type of saddles. That actually work really well, quite stable, so that's very nice. And you then also get the trem arm included for your tremolo system that you then put into here. Yeah, again, all original. Let's put this one back on. The controls are quite simple, just a volume and a tone control. So master volume, master tone, output jack over here on the front, and then you've got your Fender F plate over here, your neck plate. Moving on to the neck, that is a maple neck, and again with some very nice flame going on over there. So that is really lucky. It looks really nice. It's also in a very good shape. Like, it's very little of any wear to like feel on the back of the neck, which is actually quite remarkable, because obviously on the body you do got some honest nicks and dings here and there, but this neck just feels really nice and very, yeah, clean. So that's very nice to see. The neck profile, it is a little bit on the slim side, so a little bit medium to slim, but still got plenty of meat, so it's not too thin for my own liking. Just plays and feels really nice. And then you've got your original rosewood fingerboard, which is actually a slab rosewood fingerboard. I'm not 100% sure why the Fender Mustangs in this time would get a slab rosewood, because that competition one also has a slab rosewood fingerboard. So for some reason, the Mustangs got a slab rosewood fingerboard. I always thought that the slab rosewood fingerboards were only a thing of the late 1950s, early 1960s. But for some reason, the Fender Mustang also gets that in later years. If anybody knows, please fill me in the comments. I'm actually quite curious to know. 7 1/4 inch radius, original Pearloid dot inlays, original bone nut, and your Fender Mustang decal on the headstock with your single string tree, and your original Fender stamped tuners with your plastic white tips. And then the last thing to mention, it also comes with a hard shell case, not the original one unfortunately, but the one from the 1970s, a Fender hard shell case. So yeah, also a really cool and vibey, real deal old Fender case that still holds up really nicely. So yeah, really cool guitar. Fender Mustang, they're a little bit quirky. Like I said, they were kind of like the student models, but don't let that fool you, because these rip really nicely. Really cool guitars. Also kind of like associated with like punk rock, and also kind of like the grunge scene, because they are just a little bit different. They're not a Strat, they're not a Telecaster, they really kind of like their own thing also then with the scale length, but they are really cool. So let's move on to the playing part, and let's actually hear what it sounds like. But first, if you're interested in this real deal 1966 Fender Mustang in its original Dakota red finish, from with having just one owner in its entire lifetime, be sure to head over to the links in the description for further details. If you enjoyed this demo, be sure to like the video and to subscribe to the channel for more cool weekly demos of very cool golden age vintage electric guitars. Also really cool acoustic guitars, bass guitars even, all of that really cool stuff. Also be sure to like us and follow us on our socials, Instagram and Facebook. Links are also in the description. With all that being said, let's see what this real deal 1966 Fender Mustang in its original Dakota red finish sounds like. Going to be playing it through this late 1970s Fender Pro Reverb. First be playing the clean tones, and then I'll be playing the dirty tones, for which I'll be using a non-horsey Clan Centaur overdrive pedal. So let's then move on to that part, and let's then take this really cool 100% original Fender original Fender Mustang from 1966 for a spin.